Welcome back to the channel, everybody. They just proved everything that I was saying about why stablecoin holders are going to need XRP or something like XRP. And I'm glad someone finally had the guts to speak up on this and address it. And they did a thorough job for sure. Let's scroll down here. This article is actually titled Stablecoins, FDIC, Bailouts, Redemptions, and Runs. They covered everything. And when you know this type of information, then you understand why stable coins are a backdoor for the native tokens to creep in. The stable coins don't float, they don't move, they don't thrive into the future. They're nothing but a threat. Just like the BIS said, just like the ECB knew. They're nothing but a threat without the liquidity of the bank coins. Now, once again, let's circle back to what I was saying before. A lot of people will immediately say, well, what about the stuff they're back with? These traditional assets didn't save them before. They're going to address that as well. Once again, once you see that, you have to ask yourself, then how does this work? The only the only logic that could possibly be behind this push is that you have something new that's going to allow it all to work. If not, all you're doing is running a riskier system. But let's go here. I'm going to show you. We got a lot of good news today. Hope you're all doing well today. So today they're backing stablecoins with the same assets that they backed them with years ago. Back in, what was it? Was it 2023 when Silvergate and SVB went down? I think that it was. I see they have it here. This is what it says. When Silicon Valley Bank went under in 2023, USDC, everybody's favorite stablecoin for some reason, no disrespect, USDC stablecoin issuer Circle had deposits of $3.3 billion. You think they didn't know about the weaknesses then? Listen, let's keep going. You see where this is going already? $3.3 billion resulting in the depegging of the $40 billion stablecoin. Given now people will begin to understand why RLUSD is taking off so quickly. With institutions, let's be clear with that, with institutions. They know XRP is going to save them. They don't have anything to worry about. But with everyone else, if they don't have a native token backing them, they definitely have something to worry about. Hence why also it makes sense if Circle was wise to just sell to Ripple. They're going to sell to somebody. That's why all that was floating around for some time. Because if not, then this can happen again. We're in a more riskier environment than 2023. There's more banks at risk than in 2023. So how is this a better time period for someone like Circle backing their stablecoin with the same assets? That doesn't make any sense. The only thing that makes sense is that either you're going to sell to somebody or you're going to back your stuff with some sort of liquidity token. It's one or the other. It's one or the other. Maybe you start working with Ripple, I don't know, or some other bank coin company that has a liquidity token. Either way, you better get that liquidity. The bank coins are going to dominate the game. There's no way around it from what I see right now. Let's continue on. There's more evidence, all right? And look into this for yourself. It says, luckily, they wouldn't have survived then. RLUSD can't survive anything because of XRP. But let's keep going, which means XRP is the key. Which means all of them, those who are trying to build XRP treasuries, the banks who want to utilize XRP or hold XRP, whatever they're going to do, and no one knows what they're going to do unless they work for those banks. So all those claims that people make of they're going to do this, going to do that, we don't know what they're going to do unless you're a mind reader or you're them, and you're neither one. Neither am I. But we can do some guesstimations, right? Some estimations. It says, luckily for Circle, the U.S. Treasury decided to bail out all deposit holders. If they didn't get that bailout, it was over. Once again. So those assets that they were back with didn't matter. What's different now that they're getting this push? What's different now is that the bank coins are unleashed or being unleashed. That's the difference now. That's why they can get a push now. That's why everyone's, filled with zeal over native tokens like XRP, Solana, etc. They know what they have. They know what they hold. It continues. It says AEI's Paul Kupiec described it as, quote, an emergency guarantee that almost certainly bailed out Circle and prevented the failure of the second largest U.S. dollar payment payment stablecoin, unquote. It definitely bailed out Circle, but this wouldn't necessarily have caused USDC's failure. That's because haircuts, wait a minute, listen to this. That's because haircuts are not unheard of in the crypto world. Despite the bailout, USDC lost ground to Tether for a long period. So they were just going to all they could do otherwise, throw their hands in the air and say, well, there was a loss. Let's hope everyone's used to it because it's crypto. Get it. Stop. That's absolutely absurd and disturbing for anyone who has absolute trust in these things and not just simply moving in and out of them quickly. Once again, other than RLUSD, other than that, and I'm not a stablecoin supporter whatsoever, but I see what's happening. I see that RLUSD is like a mask on XRP's face. That's all it is. It's a mask for XRP. XRP's faster, it's better. It goes with special mechanisms on the XRPL, has liquidity, it's a cross-border, what do you call that? It's a bridge currency. It has everything. And if anyone thinks that these companies don't know that, I don't know what to tell you. So then the EU, European Union, voiced their concerns. It says here, the EU's concerns about multi-jurisdiction stablecoins highlight an intuitive finding. If it's easier to redeem, the run risk is higher. Bank runs. I like how sometimes they don't say the entire phrase because I can see clearly they don't want to provoke some sort of panic. But wise people don't panic. Wise people take that information as something that we need and we see it for what it is and we measure, and then we know to either protect ourselves, move on, move forward. We use information to make decisions, not panic. But I sort of understand what they're doing, but at the same time, I don't like that. Just talk to me plainly, talk to me straight. But the run risk, bank run, is higher. So how do you negate that? So you're walking out of it. What allows them, right? Here's the question. Here's the why. What allows them to walk out of an environment where stablecoins were riskier? They always have been because they're easier to redeem. And not only that, in combination with a riskier bank environment where globally more banks are teetering on destruction than years ago. What allows them to be able to run headfirst into stablecoins now? What's the difference maker now? Oh, the difference maker is crypto is being unleashed, and the liquidity that can be gathered together is larger than any liquidity cushion, any liquidity pool ever that mankind has ever seen. And they know they can do it. Retail can't do that. Retail is not together enough to do that, but the companies can do that, and they see it. This is why they're positioning themselves to gobble up. In my humble opinion, you don't have to agree. They're positioning themselves to gobble up the majority of bank coins. You could see it now with the treasuries. Now, I didn't make a video the other day, but there was an article came out about another company that's starting up a bank coin treasury. Did you see that article? Anybody could look this up. Why are they all doing these bank coin treasuries? Huh? And they're doing them at a time where there's a lot of manipulation going on, in my humble opinion, because they start up these treasuries at a time where where a majority article writers that I'm seeing are like, well, this particular crypto is about to take a break. The price is about to go down. Right. So then they must be expecting, they're not concerned with any loss. Then that means they must believe that any sort of loss, since they're getting in now, must be temporary. But then if they're in it for gains, I think also it would be logical that they must believe that the prices are going much higher. But then that's only two superficial, facile angles. On a deeper level, they must get in because they need the liquidity. Once again, we covered how they could use this stuff outright. They don't need to go through Ripple. They don't need to go through Hedera or Stellar or any of these companies. Once they acquire that stuff, if they have the technology, they've had a long time to learn. They've had a long time to study it. They've had a long time to play around with it. A lot of this stuff, even though there's new people into crypto, they may not know this, was open sourced a long time ago. So they've had time to study it. They can study how to put together systems. They probably have systems of their own that they have on standby just in case to use these liquidity tokens and bridge currencies outright alone. Either way, it makes that price explode. I'm okay with it either way. But when it does go through other companies like SBI, Ripple, Solana, Algorand, it's more observable because it'll hit the news. So it's a little bit better for anyone that's doing research. When companies do things directly, it's much more difficult to acquire that information. They have a lot of advanced ways to keep things quiet. So the EU is bringing that up again about bank runs, right? Right. The bank coins negate that. You have a bank run, your stable coin is about to get depegged because of an outflow of liquidity. You use those liquidity tokens to fill the gaps. You make sure that at all times there's sufficient liquidity. They could do that in a myriad of ways. And you fill that gap with that liquidity temporarily so that you don't experience any depegging. And hopefully that lasts until everything blows over. The last time in the US that they had these types of bank runs, the FDIC ran out of money. Who was around for that? Remember that? You think not? Hold on one second. Wait, just give me one moment, please. Here's your proof that the FDIC can't do it alone. They're going to probably rely heavily on liquidity tokens, in my humble opinion. Just keep your eyes on it. I'm not an absolutist. I'm not a psychic, but here's your proof. It says Kupiec also highlighted a massive irony. The collapse of SVB and Signature Bank depleted FDIC's funds, resulting in the FDIC requiring banks to contribute $16.2 billion. They ran out of money so badly off of just a handful of banks, a handful, that they had to start asking banks to kick in. Folks, that was at that time, I count for that year that from what I know, maybe about 5 to 7 banks went down, because 3 of them went down quietly in the summertime. Shh. They didn't want to talk about it. Nobody talked about it. Nobody cared. I covered it. Those videos are still up. I covered it. But it's a handful depleted their funds. Wait, on the low end, the independent, what do they call them? The independent companies that look at banks that are in trouble, on the low end says 649 are in trouble. That's in the US alone. And that's only the most severe. When you're looking at other ones that are tiers below them that are teetering on destruction, but they're not absolutely severe, there's thousands. Wait, but let's stick to the 649. Somewhere around there, we just did the video. Anybody can go look at those numbers, okay? All right, I'm going off the top of my head. But if a handful of banks, 5 to 7 of them depleted their funds, you think that they can handle if there were hundreds of banks that go down at any point in time? I'm just asking questions. Obviously, they can't. So how are all of these banks going to entertain stablecoins without some sort of liquidity factor here, some sort of liquidity cushion, some sort of life preserver? I don't know. Put your own phrase to it. What allows them to do this? They're interacting with a more risky asset. The only logical conclusion would be, in my humble opinion, they're going to use the liquidity tokens. XRP and your XLMs, your XDC, whatever. You look into it, you do your own research. I'm just throwing names out there because they have that capability. You make up your own mind about things, you do your own research, you trust yourself, see things with your own eyes, make your own decisions, and be careful out there. That's how I look at it. Be careful at all times. Protect yourself at all times. This article is titled "Ripple Leads Billion-Dollar Tokenization Market as Issuance on XRP Ledger Explodes 2,260%. If you like what's going on now, then you're going to love what happens in the future. RWA is going to explode violently. They have no choice. They want to make a lot of they want to accumulate a lot of value. They want to move a lot of things that are nearly worthless to them, all of these different holders, and yet highly valuable to the world, and the world wants it. They can move it at lightning speed across the XRPL or Algorand, whatever, any of these Bankcoin company chains, and they're going to. Nothing's going to stop them. I mean, short of some sort of natural occurrence that's just unavoidable. But it begins here. So they're prepping right now. You're seeing the introductory stages. A massive change in power is taking place within the blockchain space, and Ripple's XRP ledger is quietly becoming the most powerful force in the tokenization race. This is what they're claiming. Look into this. Of course, in July alone, tokenized asset issuance on the XRP ledger surged from $5 million in January to more than $118 million, representing a 2,260% increase. This explosive growth, confirmed by both on-chain data and recent commentary by crypto commentator Pompeius, shows that the era of tokenized real-world assets on the XRP ledger is becoming reality. It says, according to Pompeius, who shared data on social media platform X, the recent surge is not just hype, but a reflection of real institutional migration. Yeah, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, the institutions been doing the most. They've been, at the head of most of the activities, is what I mean. They're taking over. They were always going to take over. These things were made for them. They have the connections to make the collection. That makes sense? It rhymes, but you get what I'm saying. They know that they can talk to this company over here, and they may want to move some oil on RWA, oil value. They may want to trace it. This company over here wants to move real estate. They have the connections. They're putting it all together. They're planning things right now to make a major move in the future. They're testing things out little by little. This is little stuff here. It's just a bunch of them are doing it. It continues on here. It says banks, fintech firms, and private companies are now quietly issuing tokenized bonds, real estate titles. We saw what happened in the I believe it was the UAE, or was it Dubai? One of them. You can look that news up. Just happened within the last 2 weeks. They're doing something with real estate on the XRPL. It says real estate titles and commodities directly on the XRP ledger. Yeah, commodities are going to be major of all kinds. I know when people think commodities, they only think gold, silver, platinum, etc. No, there's going to be a lot of different types of commodities. Look into it, what they've already tested. It says, unlike blockchains such as Ethereum that often struggle with high gas fees, or Solana, which has faced reliability issues, XRPL. Now, that's one way to look at it. But when it comes to Solana, listen, they have a lot of businesses that are talking about Solana, creating Solana treasuries. Solana is serious business. My humble opinion is that nothing that has occurred, and all of these different chains have had their various controversies. You could bring up the positives on a chain, or you could bring up the negatives. That's up to that person's mental outlook on things. The glass is half full type stuff. Some people see the glass half full, some see it half empty. Okay. But when you look at the facts, companies are going after Solana. That price is going to explode, my humble opinion. You don't have to agree. Super bullish on Solana. It says, which has faced reliability issues, XRPL offers the kind of enterprise-grade performance needed to handle large volumes of tokenized assets, particularly Ripple's XRPL can process up to 1,500 transactions. We know that stuff. I'm not going to preach to the choir. It's super bullish. They want XRP. They want the XRPL. I envision it being dominated by major companies in the future. I think a lot of names are going to surprise people, including the potential for them to work with Swift, but also large asset managers. We will see. They're not foolish. There's a reason that they look a certain way when you ask them about XRP, but they won't mention XRPL. They know who is who. And they want to be shoulder to shoulder with giants. They want to be shoulder to shoulder with companies that are going to be powerful and can do them favors later. Who is that? Who's on that list? If BlackRock wants to work with somebody, for example, who do you think they're going to work with when it comes to the Bankcoin companies? They're going to want to work with those who are at the top. Well, who works with the most banks? Who has the potential to move the most value? Who has the potential to move the most when it comes to RWA at the cheapest prices? Who has corridors all around the world? Who? These are important questions to ask. Those asset managers are coming. They're dibble-dabbling in Bitcoin. This is nothing. They're going to run that Bitcoin price up, in my humble opinion. But when it comes to real-world asset tokenization, moving the big money, things like that, not just the piggy bank, then you're talking about blockchains like XRP, the XRPL. You slide in a Solana, a chain link, you got your Stellars, your Algorands, you have your XDCs, Quant is over there, but I think Quant is hugging onto the Bank of England pretty heavily, so I will watch them over there. They also have some reach in South and Central America, but these are the names that pop up. I mean, you look into them for yourself and you make your own decisions on that, but that's what I've seen. But now let's go here. So XRPL is looking great. That's what that boils down to. All right, so let's go on here. A little bit of Bitcoin news. Every time Bitcoin goes down a little bit, there's a little bit of friction. Get these article writers. Oh my goodness, Bitcoin, the Bitcoin run. Is it over? It's not over. If the catalysts haven't gone away. But I get it. Drama sells. The whole panic, that adrenaline rush, people get addicted to it. I get it. Get some clicks and views. I understand. I just don't stand on that side. I know what I see when it's time and I see a negative catalyst or the positive go away. It doesn't even take a negative catalyst. Once the positive catalysts start going away, then I'll say to myself, okay, Bitcoin's going down. But as of right now, that hasn't happened. Even if there's a pause in the activity, there still should theoretically be a rise dramatically into the future. It's just a matter of watching what these companies are doing, who's going to be accumulating. But this article is titled Bitcoin to hit $135,000 by year end in base case forecast, $199,000 in bullish scenario. Either way, that's great. Remember in the bloody bear market where Bitcoin's price was? Where was it? Where were a lot of these coins and tokens? They want you to forget so badly so that now people can push this agenda of, oh man, woe is me and woe the market. Bull run might be open. Let's stop. Everything's looking great right now. We've been through a lot of tough things. Everything's looking great right now. I like to enjoy the moment. I don't know about you. I only speak for myself. I like to enjoy the moment. We don't get a whole lot of good ones. So I appreciate it when we do have it. This article begins here. And the banks, this is coming from Citibank. In the bank's most optimistic scenario, Bitcoin could reach $199,000 by the end of the year. That would be fantastic. While a more bearish setup pulls the forecast down to 64,000. That's their bearish forecast. Okay. Their base forecast is 135,000. That's interesting. Yeah, that makes, listen, I'm going to continue to observe. This type of thing here is going to be increasingly more difficult to predict or to put a prediction out about. I mean, if you're going to talk potentiality, sure, I can see it going past. I can see it going up to 200,000. Sure. I don't know when. That's the thing. See, they're putting time periods on this. How do you do that? How do you, unless you're talking, and I mean, don't get me wrong. Citi could have if they're making their research analysts and their research teams work, like really, really work. Sure, they can have them calling companies, a variety of companies, and polling them to see how fast they're going to accumulate Bitcoin and move on it. I suppose with that type of information, they could say, well, by the end of the year, this many companies want to get into Bitcoin and spend this much on Bitcoin. So therefore, it could hit 135,000 to almost 200,000. Sure, they could do that. But unless you tell me that, why would I think that you did that? I mean, I consider both paths. Maybe you didn't do it. Maybe you did do it. I know they have the capital to do it, for sure. For sure. Researchers put in a little overtime. They could definitely do that. If that is the case, then I guess they would be at liberty to put a time period on this. But I can't see most doing a time period with Bitcoin. We can only talk about potentiality. Who knows when it's going to go off? But it is more easier to say at some point, yes, it has the potential to go this high, even higher. You want to be real about it, even higher now. And the only reason I can say that is because over the last month, we've seen more activities, more companies want to get into Bitcoin. They're coming out, they're talking about it. And yet they're still over 70% of, at least in the US. And that's even mind blowing. 70% of businesses in the US are not into Bitcoin just yet, but have expressed interest to get into Bitcoin, the possibility of it. Who knows when that's going to happen as well. See, this is why we just simply have to observe. Your eyes are going to tell you. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. And unless you know a real psychic, when we're talking about dates, I mean, you'd be better off on your own, just observing the catalyst and coming up with your own timelines about what you want to do, when you want to move, when you want to get out of things, etc. And trust yourself, right? That's how you live without regret. Trust yourself and be careful. Be careful. All right. People lead you off a bridge. But this Bitcoin is looking good. I like this city forecast. We'll see what happens. If it happens by the end of the year, great. But once again, watch the catalyst. Even if it does go to 200K, I don't think it's over. It could definitely take a breather on its way up there. A few of them. You could have a few dips, few corrections. Sure. Even if let's say it says more bearish setup. If there was a bearish setup to go down to 64,000, I would think it's pure manipulation. I would. If I were those companies, I would not. If I wanted to get these other companies in, because someone may say, well, Mick, what's the point of them bringing it down 64,000? Well, number one, they'd be able to chase out a lot of retail. Retail's already selling. A lot of those maxis, a lot of the, no disrespect, a lot of long-term holders, they've been reported as selling. They can squeeze them out a little bit more. They want to retain their value, and I'm not mad at that. Protect your value at all costs. In my humble opinion, not financial advice. But they will squeeze them out. Why? Because they want to replace them. So I don't put it past them to bring the price down if they get an opportunity to do so. You squeeze out even more retail, and you bring in your company buddies, more companies. And once all those companies are in, they know they have the power to run that price up again. Retail will come back. Maybe not the maxis as such, but there's people that want to play. There's people that they approach crypto not in a strategic way. They approach it almost like gambling. They don't do any research. They just throw money at it and hope it just goes up. That's a dangerous thing, my humble opinion. No disrespect. But this is not, this is a chess game. You have to be thinking at all times. But they know that those people will come back if they're even worried about retail at all, which I don't think so. This is about to be a chess match between companies and banks. And that money is going to continue to circulate. And they know that. And they can run that price up anytime they want through their connections to the media. It does not take a lot. It doesn't. So that's why I think that I wouldn't put it past them to attempt that type of move, strategically speaking. All right. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.